welcome to another episode of the Elevated Energy Podcast. As always, I'm your humble host, Richard Klein, and with me, my co-host, Scott Dozier. Got a great show for you this week. A lot going on, and with all this focus on climate change, renewable energy sources are at the forefront of everybody's mind, and we are here to help you make sense of it all and see what you can do to take the fight against climate change right to the front lines, right? Starting off, we've got some automated trading desks in Denmark have been buying and selling energy contracts based on weather conditions, and this has been significantly impacting the renewable energy market. Basically, there's a bunch of private investors out there making billions on the exchange rates from what they think solar panels are going to produce. So it's literally popped up like a new energy trade stock market. It's kind of wild, right? So these trading activities are essential for managing the variable nature of wind and solar power, helping to maintain a balanced energy grid. And while there are some traders earning substantial profits, there are a lot of growing concerns about the impact of energy price fluctuations on consumers. Because I don't know if you know about all the energy poverty that Europe has been dealing with since they got forced to be less reliant on Russian oil due to the whole Ukraine fiasco. So there's been a lot of people without power over there, and they think that this might be kind of contributing to a little bit of that. Something to keep an eye on.
It just gets weirder and weirder, doesn't it, bro? Like,
Right?
playing games with that. I'm not surprised. All right. Anyway, the Biden administration on Wednesday unveiled a proposal for solar energy projects on federal lands that identifies 22 million acres in 11 Western states best suited for development. The announcement is part of the Interior Department's push to site more renewable energy facilities on federal lands, a cornerstone of President Biden's goal to decarbonize the U.S. electricity grid by 2035 and combat climate change. The draft plan published on Wednesday would update an Obama-era policy that established special zones for solar projects in 6 states: Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, and Utah.
Oh, hey, man, that's huge. 22 million acres, bro.
That's a lot of, dude, there's so much empty land in this country. Like, it's honestly insane how everyone's crowded into these metropolises because, well, it used to make sense when you had to pull up to work, right? Like, you need to show up to work, and industries in these areas, and it thrives when there's more and more there, despite the fact that we're absolutely destroying ecosystems. And like, dude, like, like giant metropolises are so hard on the environment, bro. Like, it's
100%. There's multiple different types of pollution, fog in the air, as well as like ground and water pollution and shit. So like 100%. And with the push for people to be working from home so much recently anyway, like there's just not as much need for us to be clustered together in huge metropolitan areas. So I agree with that 100%. Yeah. But utilizing some of that free range open space for solar power and transitioning away from coal burning power, always a plus. And we like to see the push for not just residential solar, you know what I'm saying? Like mom and pop also can do their part, but the federal is making sure that we back that up and setting a good example, which I do like to see as well.
Yeah.
So we got the Defense Department is actually even going to install solar panels on the Pentagon, right? So part of the Biden administration's plan to promote clean energy and reestablish the federal government as a sustainability leader. The Pentagon is one of 31 government sites that are actually going to be receiving over $104 million in Energy Department grants that are expected to double the amount of carbon-free electricity at federal sites and create up to 27 megawatts of clean energy capacity while leveraging more than $361 million in private investments. So even private equity is getting into renewable energy, which, like whatever our opinions on private equity be aside, at least they're doing something that could possibly benefit someone other than themselves, right?
My question is, when I read that, is how come they're just now doing that?
Right. I think it's a lot of push from federal. And, I actually saw something here recently that was pretty cool. So recently there was a guy who like stock market percentages, like the percentage of a company that you own, right? There's a lot more value to owning stocks than just the money that they represent, right? Because owning a certain percentage of a company gives you voting rights in that company and the ability to actually put things on a ballot that goes to a vote between all the investors, and you can actually get something pushed through. Well, that exact thing happened to Exxon recently. Right? Somebody owned 5% of their stock, right? And used that in order to get pushing phase 3 green systems, I guess, to be put in place. You know what I'm saying? Like more renewable energy systems, more filtering to reduce carbon emissions and stuff like that on a massive oil company like this. Because we all know that they're very loath to be making green decisions because that's kind of putting themselves out of business. But at the same time, it only took 5% of the company, and they had enough power to get those things put in motion.
That's super rad, bro. Businesses announced 8 new large-scale clean energy projects in December, bringing the total number of major clean energy and clean vehicle projects announced in 2023 to 196.
Shoo.
According to the latest monthly analysis of private sector announcements from E2, that is. The 8 new projects are expected to result in more than 1.8 billion in private sector investments and create at least 2,600 jobs in 5 states. Let's go.
Heck yeah.
Including December's projects, E2 in 2023 tracked nearly 64 billion in announced private sector investments to build major new clean energy projects, including factories to make solar panels, batteries, and electric vehicles, as well as major renewable energy development. The nearly 200 projects are spread across 39 states and Puerto Rico, and expected to create at least 61,000 new jobs, primarily in manufacturing and the electric vehicle sector.
There you go, blue collar.
Yeah, let's go. We need that. Manufacturing projects accounted for 7 of the 8 December announcements, with 3 solar and EV manufacturing projects. 3 projects are being constructed in Ohio and 2 in South Carolina. The largest investment was Wari Energy's $1 billion, which will help construct its first U.S. solar factory in Brookshire, Texas. So Ohio, South Carolina, and Texas, you got some jobs coming your way in the renewable sector. Let's go.
All right, so we got an entire school system in coal-producing West Virginia is going to be going solar, representing what a U.S. developer and U.S. Senator Joe Manchin's office touted on Wednesday as the biggest ever single demonstration of sun-powered renewable electricity in an Appalachian state school. The agreement between Wayne County Schools and West Virginian solar installer and developer Solar Holler builds on historic investments in coal communities made possible by the Inflation Reduction Act, which Democratic Senator Manchin had a role in shaping as chairman of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. The solar installation is the latest school-related green energy project to come into the state with the help of the Biden administration era spending package. Next month, Canadian-based electric bus manufacturer Green Power Motor Inc., which recently opened a manufacturing facility in West Virginia's capital, is actually scheduled to deliver the state's first electric school buses to 4 school county districts. So even the education department's going green, man.
You know, one thing that it does concern me a little bit is that like we have all of these goals being carbon neutral and all that stuff. Like, I don't think most people realize how much infrastructure needs to go in for us to be able to handle all of the electric vehicles and stuff like that. Like it's
Oh yeah, like the chargers and stuff like that, for sure.
and the thing that's really, really silly about some of these charging stations is like some of them run off diesel fuel, bro.
Right. Yeah. That's like there's even there was a GM's electrical vehicle plant. I'm pretty sure they just ramped up the nearby coal power plants production so that they can charge the batteries for them. And I was like, bro, like, what do you mean? I
There
was
was
like,
I saw
right.
on Instagram or something like that, somebody was like pulled over on the side of the road in their Tesla, and they had a generator out and they were pouring gas into it so they could charge their car. I'm like, oh my God, this is just insane what we're doing here. Like, come on,
Right. I'm
man.
just waiting for Tesla to come out with the Cybertruck, but it's entirely made out of solar panels. Or it's entirely made out of photovoltaic cells, so it just kind of
Bro,
charges itself as you go.
here's the thing, is that people have been doing that for a while where they've had solar on top of their cars and slowly charging as they're driving. It's DIY. You know what I mean?
Right.
Here's the thing. If some DIYer can do it, then these multi-billion, trillion, gazillion dollar companies can 100% do it. You know?
Right. And I mean,
So,
even the Cybertruck, especially, bro, like with how big the back of it is, you know what I'm saying? Because the biggest thing I've actually seen an interview with Elon Musk where he talks about why he hasn't put solar on a vehicle yet. And it's just surface area. There's not enough surface area to combat the usage of it in real time. And I was like, well, what if you just like in the back of like a Cybertruck or something like that? It already weighs like 60,000 pounds of solid steel. So like, why not just like throw a little foldable photovoltaic unit in the back of it? That way, if you're at the beach or
sure.
something like that, you can just pop it out and charge, and you even got a little bit of shade.
Yeah, and you have one that's a solar tracker too, that just folds up, pops out, dude, and then it follows the sun. You know what I mean? Like,
Right? Yeah, it'd be fire.
100%. All right. Our industry spotlight this week is actually Tesla. Speaking of Tesla, so their solar roof technology, and is it the future of solar? So these are basically solar shingles. Some people know about this. They have a proprietary design developed by Solar City, which is one of Elon Musk's companies, right? Before Tesla acquired them in 2019. So for whatever reason, it's more expensive than traditional solar. Apparently, they're facing some legal trouble over their sudden price increase. You need a special.
Yeah, no, I heard about that. Hang on. So, like,
Okay, okay.
literally, they started throwing these solar roofs on people's houses and stuff like that, right? And they're making the payments for them. And, like, as they're looking at their bill, it literally jumps from like a $60,000 bill to like a $110,000 bill because there was some kind of hiccup with the manufacturing to where they were doing it overseas and then they ended up having to do it here because of some, I think it was something to do with tariffs with the whole like lockdown and everything like that. Everything being imported started to become a lot more expensive, right? And so literally they just had to fucking drop the price up, and so people were freaking out about it, bro.
Oh,
And so like, but I think the technology itself is super fire. You know what I'm saying? Because like one of people's biggest worries with getting residential solar, especially, would be the possible damage or like holes in the roof, whether or not it's going to make the roof sag over time. Which is why we have all of the guarantees, like the insuring roofs for decades, as well as like sometimes some people even insure them for up to 25 years, depending on your installer. But yeah, so like that's one of the biggest concerns with it, right? And so this kind of literally takes that out. The only problem is like there's so many like caveats to it. You know what I'm saying? Like like I said, it's more expensive. You know what I'm saying? And then I think they have to have like specially trained teams to install them. Like it can't just be done by anybody. And so that's been pretty crazy. But luckily, if the aesthetic of a solar roof is something that you're interested in, there is a little bit of more competition coming around, right? And so there's a company called GAF, which is actually a well-known roofing company already, and they've come out with their own solar roof scenario, which is a much simpler format that can actually be installed just by your average roofer, right? And it only costs about the same as like a traditional roof with solar does already, right? They're actually currently building a new plant in Texas that's going to increase their production all the way up to 300 megawatts. So Tesla better hurry up on getting their ends tied up on that one, otherwise they're going to have a new kid on the block.
yeah. So I have a friend who's out in Montana, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing out there?" Because I know that he's a contractor. He's a painting contractor.
Right.
I always talk to like my contractor and real estate friends and stuff. Like, hey, you got a vast network of people. Like,
Let's
let's
get
get
some
them
panels on
going.
there.
Yeah. And so he's like, do you have shingles? Like everyone out here in Montana is like getting these shingles. Well, we don't right now, but then we started looking into it, right? And I actually had a conversation over Packers Niners game actually, and someone family extension because so fun fact about my family, everybody, I'm being born and raised in California. My mom is born and raised in Wisconsin, so if you know anything about people from Wisconsin, they're always Packers fans. But
Right.
my dad being born and raised in California and me being here as well, so we're on the Niners side. My mom and my sister are Packers. It's the same thing over at my sister's house where my nephew is a Niner fan and then my nieces are Packers fans, so I couldn't miss the
Sports
opportunity,
bringing the family together.
yeah, to go watch the game with the family. It was painstaking for me because we got outplayed the whole game until the end, right? And then it's heartbreaking for my mom at the end. The girls don't really care. They're super young anyway.
Right.
While watching that game, there was family, extended sort of family that was there who he is a solar installer. And I
Okay.
asked him about the shingles, and he's like, don't do it. He's like, there's all kinds of problems with them right now, which this is super common, right? With first generation of anything,
Yeah.
there's issues that need to be sort of ironed out. It's the reason why you don't really want to get the first gen of any car or any new product or anything like that, because there's sure to be issues that come up.
100%.
Sometimes there's recalls, sometimes there's not, depending on the cost benefit analysis of it. But always get the second gen because there's going to be upgrades and improvements, and those issues are kind of going to be ironed out. So if anybody's looking into it, the recommendation that I got is don't do that yet. Wait for the next iteration of them, which hopefully happens quickly. Technology is moving at a rapid pace these days, so hopefully kind of that second gen comes through and we iron these details out. And I would love to be offering those and be
For
installed.
sure.
It looks
We
dope.
might be able to look into like the gaff shingles as well, because I feel like up until they started popping theirs out, I'm pretty sure Tesla was the only name in it. And so like this could be that second iteration that we were talking about. We just got to find some people who are willing to throw down on it.
Well, competition is always good too, right? You know what I mean? When you have healthy competition, you got to be at the top of your game. You can't just skate along being the only one anymore. So
There you go.
it forces you to make sure that you're being better because they're going to try and be better than you, right?
100%. Competition drives progress. All right, next up, we got a deep dive, right? This is a topic that is very near and dear to both mine and Scott's hearts, right? So, as above, so below. So, with all of this talk about increasing air quality and reducing carbon emissions in the air, how come we're not really talking about what's going on with the topsoil, right? And so we've got industrial agriculture with monocropping, pesticides, and all that. And so it's just kind of like eating away at the soil. And so I feel like that's something that should be talked about a little bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, should it? Here's the thing, is that when you have healthy soil, you have healthy groundwater because
Right.
healthy soil filters the groundwater. There's a reason why the best water that you should be drinking, and water is maybe a topic that we can get into somewhere else or on another channel or something.
Absolutely.
Um,
Well, I mean, even in a later episode, like water is its own whole.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, no, you know what? We will get into that. We'll talk about all the water on the planet and everything. But the best water to drink, whether you know it or not, is actually spring water. It's water that's been naturally filtered through the ground and it comes out. It's got the right type of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that's in it. It holds its own electrical charge, which us being electrical beings, this is good.
We do need.
It gets right. It's nearly liposomal, right? Which means that it's in the correct form and it gets right into the cell.
Right.
Most of it, especially tap water, is absolutely poison.
Yeah, 100%. Whether it's from heavy metal poisoning, whether it's from fluoride, whether it's from you pick your poison on that one.
Pharmaceuticals in it now too. People are pissing out the drugs that they're taking, or they're flushing them down the drain or whatever. You know what I mean? So you don't know what you're getting. But back to the soil, having healthy soil creates healthy groundwater, which is a big, 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 big deal. And I am of the belief that biodynamic farming is the best way to go. As far as creating healthy topsoil.
You're talking about like crop rotation and stuff like that, right?
So the biodynamic farming method was actually basically invented by Rudolf Steiner, Steiner is the founder of anthroposophy. He was around in like the late 1800s, 1900s. Where did this guy come from? Kind of a thing.
Right.
His whole basis, it's funny because I think they're calling it like regenerative farming or regenerative agriculture nowadays, which is very similar to Steiner's idea, but it's missing some of the key elements, which he has this formula like BD51, it's biodynamic 51, and he had these very strange then theories, and they even seem strange to me now, right? Where it's like you take a cow horn, okay, right? What are those? Yeah, they're horns, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, on the steers, like on the males.
You take a cow horn, and you stuff it with manure, and you bury it when Pluto's in Leo or something like that. I don't remember.
So it even ties in with the astrological things.
Bro, I don't remember exactly what it is, okay? But
right.
Something is in something, okay? And you bury it for 6 months and you pull it out and then you put it in water and you mix it one way for a period of time and then you mix it the other way for a period of time, and it creates this solution that you can spray it very lightly. It's crazy. You can take
crazy nitrogen rich type deal.
You could take dead soil and spray it across the soil, and only a couple applications over the course of a year, it will regenerate the soil and create brand new humus, brand new clean soil that's cleaning the water, that's nutrient dense and rich. It's absolutely beautiful. It will reverse the monocropping. Okay.
Right.
Absolutely. And then you don't need your pesticides to kill all the bugs, because when you monocrop, the issue is that not only does it deplete all the soil, okay, but it creates bacteria and different bugs and pests and stuff like that are able to infiltrate that area, which is why they need to use the pesticides, which is why they need to then use different additives like nitrogen, potassium and stuff. Okay. And these are chemically processed minerals.
Yeah, it looks horrible if you see like the big spraying machines doing them, dousing it and shit like that. It doesn't look healthy. You're like, this is not food.
People wear basically gas suits.
Yeah, okay? Has literal hazmat suits walking around spraying this shit, dude.
Yeah. And okay, so for instance, like, the process with the McDonald's French fries, with the McDonald's potatoes. Do you know about that?
Yeah. I think we touched on that a little bit, but yeah, they get sprayed with so many pesticides and stuff like that they literally have to sit in a warehouse for like a week or two whenever they come out. Yeah.
They have to off-gas the toxicity, bro. That's insane.
And that's what we eat, bro. I doubt they even get it to zero.
Don't you be weeing us.
Well, yeah, I refuse to eat 99% of the things that Bill Gates has a hand in at this point. Freaking, which includes McDonald's French fries, unfortunately, though they did used to be delicious.
Yes, this is facts, bro.
And even to the point where like they have to spray them so heavily with pesticides because they stop working after a certain amount of time. So then, therefore, you have to increase the dose, and to the point where they're even genetically modifying food to have the pesticides already in the
That's
seeds
what
by the time
GMO
they're
seeds are.
grown.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
insane, bro. Like if
Yeah.
we have to go so far just from poor farming practices is what it all boils down to.
And
And
like,
it's like, why did we even industrialize the agricultural scene anyway? You know what I'm saying? Because like the whole point of industrializing and making right, but you would think in theory it would be so that we could feed everybody, right? The only reason to increase our production of food capabilities would be so that everybody would have food, and yet we still got people dying of starvation in countries and stuff like that while we sit and air out our potatoes for a month.
I mean, and that's the reason that the industry uses to justify what they're doing as well. They're like, oh, without GMO seeds and without these processes, we wouldn't be able to feed everybody, right? Well, just look in your front yard. Okay, like the invent of a home with a white picket fence and a lawn is so stupid. We used to be growing food out here, like
Right, homesteading.
yeah, in the town that I grew up in, right? Like the city plants trees. I'm not saying that we don't want trees, okay, but you plant trees, okay? So it costs you money to plant these trees. These trees are way too big for the
Mm,
space that they're being planted in. So after 10 years or so, they start pushing up the concrete, right? And so they got to come and they got to chop it down and then they come plant a new tree, okay?
right,
Which it's job security for somebody or a number of people, obviously. Okay? Because
right.
here's the thing: why don't we plant an orange tree out there, or plant an avocado tree out there, or plant apple trees, or why don't we plant food in these places so that because this tree that's here is taking just as much water, just as many nutrients, it's also providing homes for animals and stuff like that, insects and all those things. Great,
Right.
but it needs to be chopped down at some point, and it's destroying the concrete. So resources are going to be needed to go ahead and chop that thing down to come and replant another one. Okay.
Mm,
What about putting an apple tree there that doesn't get, this thing is, I don't know how big it is. I've never seen an apple tree that big. An apple tree would never get that big. It's not going to
right.
the concrete. We don't need that, and it's food. Okay, like we just need to do things a little bit smarter. And I think this was all done by design, not to get too into that, but like
Right.
here's the thing: at the end of the day, the power is in our hands. We are the many and they are the few. So we need to start making the smart decisions. We need to start, instead of growing lawns, why don't we grow food in our front yard? Okay.
Right.
Instead of all of this other stuff, like instead of planting whatever kind of tree it is, we'll plant an orange tree out there, plant an apple tree, plant, I don't know, whatever zone you're in. Okay.
Right.
Maybe citrus isn't going to make it where you are because it freezes in the winter and that's an evergreen, right? Okay. That plant is going to die. All right. So figure out whatever it is that you can plant in your area. So why don't we start doing stuff like that? We can do it a little bit smarter, right? Where we're providing, and this is then
Right.
healthy food. And then you're establishing a relationship with where your food came from.
I've even seen a lot on social media and stuff like that. There's been a huge push wave of people doing exactly that, like homesteading, growing gardens in their backyards or front yards, and then getting with other people in their community, seeing what everybody's growing and trying to like grow different things, and then they all kind of share crop. You know what I'm saying? And there's just people in communities and neighborhoods doing this. You know what I'm saying? So if people are out there looking for a way that they can get started and try to build a healthier life for themselves, get active in your community. Go talk to your neighbors, see if they would see if they've been interested in farming or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe not farming, but gardening rather.
Yeah.
And then y'all can end up sharing fruits. You know what I'm saying? Like you grow strawberries, they grow tomatoes. You know what I'm saying? And you trade
Yeah.
and so like I think that is a beautiful thing that we could all learn something from, and that's the value of not only just like being self-sufficient on your own, but also getting with other people in your community who are pushing for the same kinds of things. Because like you were saying, we are the many, and together we have power. Separately, we all have our own power and can do things of our own volition, but it becomes exponential. The growth for it is exponential whenever we start working together.
100%. Yeah. And I think that there's a statistic that like 25 years ago or something like that. I don't know what the time frame is, but no, it's not 25. 50 years ago is probably more appropriate. 50 years ago, like 90% of the population had a direct relationship with their food, where they knew where it came from, or they were growing it, or they had cows, or they had chickens, or whatever it is, right?
It's
And
because there
now,
were farmers markets everywhere and shit.
well, that's another part of it too. And now it's like, I think it's like 1% of people, or less than 1% of us. Okay. And so here's the thing: is that the reason that monocropping is what it is because of money in the first place. Okay. And I
Right.
think we can all agree, if you just look into it, if you don't know already, that the food industry and where we get our food is garbage. And
Mm.
it's a problem. Another thing that's an issue with monocropping and doing things on a massive scale is that in depleted soil, these foods that we're eating are less nutrient dense than they were at, let's say 50 years ago, okay, because of the depleted soil. So in many
Right,
ways,
because where are they going to get them from?
right. And in many ways, you growing your own food, it's not only going to be healthier for you, okay, but you're going to save money, okay, and you can begin having a relationship with your food again. You get out there, it's also therapeutic, okay. There's a bunch of studies that show that getting soil under your fingernails and stuff does a specific thing for you that's positive in that manner. There's also the earthing and grounding element of it, where go get barefoot, go gather some electrons, go have a relationship with your food, get some sunshine, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, so it's not necessarily about changing the industry and going from monocropping to rotating crops and getting into sustainable farming. I think it's really in our hands to do that. And I think at a local level to begin doing that as well. Right. And there's
Well, because
obviously, go ahead.
because like I mean, us doing it on our own, you know what I'm saying, would kind of like push corporations into doing the same. You know what I'm saying? Because if we are all growing our own food, then that's going to lessen the amount of money that they're getting from their garbage food.
If they
You know
had,
what I'm saying? So if we're all buying, or if we're all making our own food as opposed to buying it, you know what I'm saying, then that'll, because it's healthier, that'll kind of push them into healthier practices to be like, look, man, like we'd buy your food if it was food. You know, but if it's not gonna be food, then I'd rather just go ahead and grow my own tomatoes, man. I do love me a good tomato sandwich.
yeah. And you bring up a good point there too. And that is that, corporations dislike not making money over anything else. So again, we are the many and they are the few. So what you vote for, you're casting a vote for what you support, right?
Right.
The thing that you support. So when if you don't like McDonald's, okay, because what they're selling is not food, then stop going to McDonald's and help raise the awareness that that's not food and we shouldn't be eating that. And it's not just about McDonald's either. It's basically every single corporate restaurant that you can think of.
100%. Yeah.
And even the ones that are organic, because the topsoil has been depleted. Okay, even the organic food that you're eating isn't nearly as nutrient dense as it was 50 years ago. Okay, this is why there's
Right.
disease and all these other issues and stuff like that we're having. So on so many different levels, not only can we help to heal the topsoil, which then cleans the water, save some money, eating more nutrient dense food, which helps our health. Okay, it's just there's this cascading effect that as we begin doing these things for ourselves, and start with something small, grow one tomato plant, right, or whatever
Right.
you love. If you love strawberries, grow some strawberries in the summertime, or grow some grapes, or I don't care what it is, you figure it out, whatever it is, some cucumbers, some watermelons, I don't know,
Right on. Yeah.
figure it out, start with one thing, and then go from there. And then as you're doing it, just make sure that you're not feeding back into that industry. So let's have some natural pest control. Okay. A pest
Right.
control that I really, really like and has been super, super effective is you can soak onions and cayenne and garlic. Okay. And you let it kind of percolate over like a few days in the refrigerator. All right.
Yeah.
And
Kind of turn into a tincture of sorts.
oh, 100%. And dude, just think about how potent onion and garlic and cayenne pepper is.
Right.
Insects don't like it, bro. Okay. And
Right.
as much as I
Three different kinds
sprayed
of
it,
spicy.
bro, so insects love like lettuce, like leafy greens and stuff like that. Okay. They love
Right.
tomatoes and things like that. Like I've been growing food for a while. Absolutely love it. I have not found that despite what you may think, I've not found that spraying that stuff on my plants on a regular basis gives my plants that type of flavor, which is
Right.
very interesting. But also I like onion and garlic and cayenne anyway.
Yeah. Who does
So I
not? If you
wouldn't
don't like garlic, there's something wrong with you, bro.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind that flavor, but I'm just saying it doesn't, and it either keeps the insects away or it kills them on your plants. Okay. So
Right.
you don't need to feed it. You don't need to go and buy Roundup at the store. Please, God, do not go and buy that at the store, because then we're feeding into the same industry that's created this. Okay.
Yeah.
Glyphosate is destroying our gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome is our first line of defense in our body. We need to have a healthy gut microbiome, which means we need to not be eating GMO foods, pesticides,
Right.
herbicides, fungicides, any of these things that we're consuming when we're eating conventionally grown food.
Right. And I didn't even know, and I don't know how many people out there, if it's how general knowledge this is, but like your gut microbiome literally dictates so much. It dictates
Second
your
brain.
skin health. It dictates emotional health. It can either assist or be detrimental towards like depression, anxiety, and other mental factors as well. And so it's in control of so very, very much that we're not really aware of. You know what I'm saying? So because we think of these things as more like something you're born with or something due to external stimuli such as trauma and stuff like that, but it could even break down to as something as simple as just what you eat. And so that's why it is so important to be eating good food, be eating whole foods, and be eating stuff that is actually food and not something that has been genetically modified to look like food and not have any of the benefits of food. Another quick note, we actually recently have released a guide. This is just a little tool that people can look up. You can find it on the Solar Bears Instagram page, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but we're dropping a guide on how to begin homesteading on your own, right? It gives you tips on sustainable gardening, as well as how to get your home and your garden powered by solar energy so you're fully renewable and independent on that instance as well, and kind of start your own little intro into homesteading and whatnot. So if any of you guys would be interested in something like that, make sure to stop by the Solar Bears Instagram page and you can pick that up free of charge.
Yep, a little game for y'all, dude. We're trying to help level up ourselves and level you guys up as we go.
You know what I'm saying? We're here to provide a little bit of value if we can, you know?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
So I think that's probably a good closing point. We thank you all for being here as always. And if you're interested in getting started on your green journey, feel free to visit www.thesolarbearsagency.com and you can speak with one of us about how we can get you started. Thank you again, everybody. And we hope you have a good night.